recorded with the Hi everybody, this is Holly from Homewood Science Center, and we are here today to give you a glimpse into our virtual brain break. These are pre-recorded lessons that we have put together with our friends from the Cancer Support Center with their art therapy team, and we're very fortunate to work with Amethyst, who is an art therapy intern for the Cancer Support Center. So our brain breaks, we are going to publish a new video every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And these videos are really targeted for kids grades kindergarten through 5th. Before we get started, I have some other announcements. You are welcome to join us for family yoga. Also, family yoga is good for the whole family. It combines science themes every week with movement and breath, and you can check that out on our Facebook Live. We have a Silly for Census photo contest going on that we really recommend that you and your family go silly for census. You can win up to $100 with our photo contest, which runs April 1st through April 30th. Of course, we all know that the census is a count of everybody in America every 10 years. And so it's important that you complete your census, but you also help spread awareness about completing the census. So we thought that would be fun with a photo contest. You can get all of the official rules on our website. You see here, homewoodsciencecenter.org/census. And some of our tips are get the whole family involved, get silly, choose a decade or a theme, use costumes, and share it with your friends and family on your Facebook and ask them to share the photo for you. Here was my Silly for Census post. We did our census, did you? And you can see we have some hashtags there we want you to include, and we want you to tag Homewood Science Center in it. All the details are at homewoodsciencecenter.org/census. So enough about Silly for Census. I know we have some budding artists out there who would want to get to today's lesson with Miss Amethyst, our art therapy intern at the Cancer Support Center. So Amethyst, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, you're welcome to do that. Kiddos, you might want to go ahead and get some crayons or markers, colored pencils, paint if your parents will allow it. Make sure you ask an adult if you're using something messy like paint. But you are welcome to go ahead and grab those materials now while we get Miss Amethyst and her slides up for today's lessons on colors.
Yes, let me see if I can pull those up now. Okay, well, there's Holly. Let me get my slides over here. Can you see that?
I'm not catching the slides.
I've got it pulled up on my screen. Hold on.
Yeah, I think you've got to go down to the Present Now button.
Where is that? Oh. Alrighty, and then let me pull up my hello.
There we go.
Is it showing? It's showing it? Perfect. Okay, let me
Yeah, but if
pull
you
that
want
up.
to hit present, there we go. Perfect. Take it away, Amethyst.
All right, so this is today's brain break. I don't think I like this pointer. I was going to try it, but this is presented by the Cancer Support Center and the Homewood Science Center. I'm the art therapy intern at the Cancer Support Center in Homewood, so I'm helping out with this. Today's topic is colors. So, maybe if you're watching this at home, maybe take a moment to pause and grab a whole bunch of materials that you might want. You can use anything that has a bunch of different colors. Markers, crayons, colored pencils. You can do magazine cutouts.
I brought my crayons, and I'm not a real good drawer, so I brought out a coloring book today since we were focusing on colors. And Miss Amethyst, I want you to know too, I wore some of my favorite colors for today. I have my purple sunglasses, my magenta earrings, and my pop-up science yellow top.
Oh, yes, I love that. All right. So, since we're talking about our favorite colors, I'm going to go to the next slide, which is about how do you use colors when you're making art. So, there's a bunch of different ways to think about colors. And so, like Holly was just talking about her favorite colors. My favorite color is brown because it's the color of like nature, and it makes me feel like I'm like out and I'm looking at like trees, and wood, and dirt, and all sorts of like cool, fun nature stuff that I like. But do you have, what colors do you like? What's your favorite color? Your least favorite? Do you like colors that are dark or light or bright? Um, and take this as a chance to maybe pause the video again and talk with your family and whoever you're with to talk about what sort of colors you like and how many you like. You can also think about the colors that you use, that you like to wear and what colors you like to decorate with. Like look around the room that you're in and point out which colors are in there and how do each of the colors make you feel when you look at them and when you use them in your art.
That's a good point. I never thought about separating out the colors that I like to wear versus the colors I like to decorate with. I love to wear magenta and purple, and I can only get away really with decorating with those colors my daughter's room, right? I can't really make my dining room a hot pink. But I like to use all different sorts of blue tones when I decorate because I feel like they just make me feel nice and calm and relaxed. And they remind me of
Mhm.
water.
Mhm. Yeah, and so you might notice that certain colors might make you feel a certain way when they're on your clothing or when they're on a piece of art versus when you see them out in the world or when you see them like up on your like wall color. Like I love neon green, but if I made my walls neon green, that would probably hurt my eyes. So, thinking about the different feelings and your different reactions to colors in different places is a really cool thing to think about when you're going about what you want to make with your art. So, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about color theory, which is just different ways to look at colors and see how they interact with each other. So, this is an example of a color wheel. I just found this one online. You can buy them in art stores. You can see them. You might have seen them in your art classes at school. A color wheel is just a circle that has all of the colors of the rainbow on it. And so we have our three primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow. And with these three colors, you can mix them to make every single color on this wheel. So if you mix red and yellow, halfway in between is orange. If you add a little bit more red, it gets red orange. If you add a little bit more yellow, it gets yellow orange. And there's
This,
all sorts.
that's really
Well,
fun to do with paint,
mhm.
especially if you have watercolors or if you have acrylic paint at home. It's really fun to mix your own color with paint.
Mhm. Yeah, one of my favorite art challenges to do if you've got some paints is try to make a whole painting with as many colors as you can. But when you make your paint palette, only put on red, yellow, blue, and then maybe like white and black, and see if you can make a whole colorful painting with just those colors. Because you can, you just got to figure out how to mix the colors to make what you want. So you've got blue, red, and yellow are your primaries, and then right in between those are your secondaries, which is violet, orange, and green. Violet and purple, people kind of say both, so I usually say violet, but some of you all might call this purple, or there's all sorts of different names for colors, but these are the ones that are usually written out on the wheel. And then in between all of those are your tertiary colors, which just means like their third because you mix the secondaries with the primaries and that makes a third color. And then you can also see this half of the circle are called cool colors, and this half is called warm colors. Warm colors are colors that are things that people usually associate with warm stuff. So you see like yellow and red, you think of like fire, sunshine, whereas like blue and like violets are more like water and ice. And so if you want your piece of art to look like it has a particular temperature to it, you can utilize different colors or like add, certain colors to each other. Like if you want to make a painting and you want red, but you want it to be a little bit more cool, if you add a little bit of violet to your red, it starts getting closer to your cool colors. And so that's just a little fun thing you can do with your art. And so I'm going to go to our next slide, which is a lesson on color harmonies. So these are the ways that colors, you can use the color wheel to show how colors interact with each other and how they might look nice together. So one example that a lot of people might have heard of is complementary colors, which are right across from each other on the color wheel. You might even think of them as opposites. So this example is red and green, but there's also blue and orange. So maybe if you take your favorite color and you see like what the complement is. So let's say like this magenta that Holly likes, is sort of like a reddish violet. So if you take the complement of that, that would be a yellowish green. And so if you're making something with a bunch of magenta, you can put a little bit of yellowish green and they're far apart on the color wheel, so they make each other pop a little bit. You also have analogous colors, which are and you also have analogous colors, which are colors that are all right next to each other on the color wheel. A lot of people use these like when you're decorating or like when you're getting dressed. Like if you're wearing like a green dress, you might want to wear like a yellow belt or something, or like if you've got like a blue couch, you might want to go for like more blue and purple furniture to kind of match it. So when colors kind of match, that's what you think of with analogous colors. Triadic colors are when you pick 3 colors that are all equally apart on the color wheel. So that would be, these are our secondary colors. That's also the primary colors. And they just all have like a nice sort of balance. Split complementary is actually my favorite color harmony. It is when you take a color and instead of its complement, you take the one on either side. So instead of green and red, it's green and red violet and red orange. And those I think look really nice when you make art with your split complements. And then for our last 2, we have rectangle and square. This is when you pick 4 colors and the squares are all equally apart from each other. And then the rectangle, you have 1 pair of colors that only have 1 in between. And then the other pair have 3 in between. So these 2 are closer than these 2. They're also 2 sets of complementary colors, if you can kind of see that too, like if you were to draw a little crisscross line in there. But yeah, feel free to take your colors at home and maybe try out some of these relationships and see which ones you like the best.
And Miss Amethyst, before we move forward, one thing that I really noticed looking at these color harmonies is that really the colors come about using geometric shapes on the color wheel. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that the color wheel is a circle and triadic is easy to remember because it's a triangle. And of course, the rectangle and square are easy to remember too. So as we're thinking about colors, you can always use your shapes to remember how to find things on the color wheel. So that's so important. And then I wanted to share, I was inspired by the triadic coloring. So I don't know if you can see this, but I am working on a picture right now with some triadic colors. I have some orange, a teal, and like a pink kind of color. And it's really fun to kind of have a guide because I'm not super artistic. So figuring out how the colors work together through geometric shapes and patterns like this is really, really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that's really easy to do, especially if you get your materials and you want to make your own color wheel. You can just pull out your color wheel and draw, your straight line, boom, or like draw your triangle and see like where everything is on your color wheel that you can make or buy or print off the computer if you find one online. So that's a really cool thing. Like if you know like one color you want to use, but you don't know which other ones would look nice. So the last thing I want to talk about with color theory is value. So value is a word that shows how light or how dark a hue or a shade is. So hue is, I went over that. That was colors. Shades are like black and white and gray. Okay. So in a lot of like fancy art stuff, they don't call black a color, they call it a shade. If you're talking to like your friends just normally and you call black a color, most people know what you mean, but shades are good to know if you want to learn a lot of like art stuff and you're like, what do they mean? So shade is usually like black or white or gray. So a value scale, which is what this image is over here, is when you take your color, your hue or your shade, and you start from the darkest and then you go little steps up until the very, very lightest until it's almost entirely white or white. So this is easy to do if you have paint, especially watercolor, because then you can just add more water or more white until it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. If you've got a whole bunch of different colored crayons and you've got some dark blues and some light blues, you can test them all out and see where they fall on the value scale. You can use values to try to use your art to show light. So if you're trying to draw a picture of like a dark forest, you might want to stick to colors that are down here where it's dark versus like a bright sunny day, you might want something a little bit lighter because colors are going to look lighter when there's more light on them. You can also use these to show distance where things that are a little bit closer tend to be a bit darker. And as it gets farther away, it sort of fades off into the distance. And so here are some examples of stuff that you can make while you're at home. So these are just some pictures that I found of different ways you can use some of these color theories. You can mix colors all together. Like I said, that experiment with the primary colors. This person seems to be doing something like that, where they started out with like a red and a yellow and a blue. And you can see like the violet and the orange, and then they come into a nice brown in the middle. That's my favorite. This person made a couple of pairs, but they did the color complements. So trying to see like how the complementary colors work together. And you don't always have to use like paint or crayons. You can do, oopsie, like a collage. And this person put together a bunch of different cutouts of pictures that are all analogous colors. So there's different like blues and greens in this piece of art that they made. And that's just a collage that if you have some like extra magazines or something laying around, that's so easy for you to do as long as everyone's done reading those magazines and you can cut the pictures out.
And there's also,
and then some other examples.
And if you could go back to the last slide, Miss Amethyst.
Yeah.
The picture with the pairs with the different color schemes, that reminded me of a very famous artist, Andy Warhol. And we went and saw the Andy Warhol exhibit at the Art Institute. And for those of you who did not get there, I highly recommend looking up Andy Warhol and checking out some of his use of color. And we also were so impressed by the different uses of mediums that he had. So sometimes he would have paint and canvas and then use crayons right on top of that. So it's fun to mix up the different mediums that you have too.
Yes, I actually saw that exhibit in the Art Institute as well. And that's also a great thing you can do with any of your favorite artists, is if there's an artist that you like and you see a lot of their work, see what kind of colors they use and see if you can practice doing that in your own artwork. And that way you might build your skills and be a little bit more like them. If we're talking about artists that use color a lot of people talk about Picasso's blue period, where he used a lot of blue in all of his paintings. And so if you're really into blue, you might want to look into that. So talking about that, if you're maybe a little overwhelmed with so many colors, you can maybe just pick one color and make that the main focus of your piece of art. So this person did another collage, and they just picked a bunch of photos of things that are violet or purple, and they put them all together. This person did photo editing. So if if you know how to edit photographs, or if you even wanted to draw this with like pencils, this person took a photograph and made almost all of it in grayscale with black and white and gray. And then they colored one single flower yellow. And you can see how that sort of pops and see how that one yellow flower really pulls your attention in from the rest of the gray in the background. And then down here, this is sort of like our value scale. This person drew mountains, where the dark mountains in the front are a little bit closer and they're darker. And then as you get farther and farther back, they sort of drift away. If you ever are looking at the city skyline for Chicago or any other cities, you'll notice that cities do this as well, like not just mountains, but buildings. The farther away they are, they look a little bit more lighter in the distance.
It looks like that mountain picture is actually pretty easy to do, right? You start with the lighter background first and work your way forward.
Yeah, or it depends on what kind of medium. So if you wanted to do like acrylic paint lays on pretty thick, you could do like one light background and then keep going on darker and darker. Or if you're doing like watercolors, which this one looks like watercolors, you can start with this dark blue navy color and draw your little mountain landscape there, and then add a little bit more water. And then once that's dried a bit, go back over and do with it with a little bit more water, add a little bit more water, add a little bit more water. Or if you have white, you can mix in white too. But I think this person probably lightened it. You know, you can just use water with watercolors and it makes it diluted because there's less of the paint is being spread thinner. So that's actually a really fun thing you can do. And if you don't have paints, if you have, 4 or 5 color crayons or markers or anything, or even if you want to cut out shapes from magazines of dark shapes in the front and then, get lighter and lighter going back. This is kind of an easy and fun project, and you can make something like that look really nice.
Yeah, that looks cool. Much better than the stick figures that I'm used to drawing.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different fun things you can practice with using colors. All right. So I believe those are all the examples that I had. And if you come up with other things, other ideas to use color, feel free to post your artwork that you made in the Facebook comments of this post and tell us how you felt about this project and what you liked and, some of your favorite colors. And make sure you tune in next week for our other brain breaks that we're going to be doing. Do you have anything else, Holly?
I don't, but a big thank you, Miss Amethyst. Thank you so much for teaching us all about colors. I am definitely inspired. I am going to probably color a little bit more this afternoon. And yeah, families, we hope that you enjoy this today or next week or whenever you have free time to go through this lesson. And we will be dropping not live, but pre-recorded brain breaks every Wednesday at 1. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye.